Hello and welcome to E2E's Business Unusual, a video content series for and by the SME community. I'm your host, Fergus Mellon, and today we're joined by Amy Mooring, co-founder of Hunter and Gather Foods. Amy, thanks so much for joining, and please, to get us out of the stalls, can you give us a brief overview of you and your business?
Oh, it's so great to be on today. Thank you for having me. So I'm co-founder of Hunter and Gather, and we are an optimal health and wellness brand. We're based in the UK and we sell through D2C. We do our website, Amazon, but we're also in physical retail in the UK and further afield.
Great. And when we spoke, probably about 2 weeks ago, you said your business had undergone some changes during the lockdown, and unlike a lot of other businesses, it had been for the better. Can you just give us again that what happened to you over the last, let's just say, 10 weeks?
Yeah, for sure. So it's been a really interesting time, and we really didn't know at the beginning how this was going to go. I think a lot of us were in this kind of space of uncertainty, and we have been very fortunate that. In terms of sales and the way that we've been working, it has been a positive impact in regards to lockdown for us as a business. Now, I think there's many factors to that, and I know we're going to cover a few in today. But if I explain just very briefly how we're set up as a business. So we're all remote workers. We're big fans of remote working. So we don't have a centralised office. All of our team work from home. And we have done that since the beginning. So in terms of business disruption, that was pretty limited because we was already in this method of working remotely. Secondly, we're an optimal health brand, and I think health has become such a focus of attention for people, and they're starting to have time at home. And it seems like there's a bit of a split in the community of people going to the homemade gym in the garden, really focusing on the optimal health and wellness, or it's a bit of a duvet, grab your chocolate bar situation. But what we find is that people have had more time to research. They're looking for more local British brands that are fulfilling their needs more locally, and they're wanting to support these local businesses. And I think those three factors is the fact that we had little disruption, we're an optimal health, so we're key in people's minds, and three, we're a British business that people want to support. And we've not only seen kind of sales increase, but the tribe and the coming together in the community has also just been amazing with the support that we've received.
Really interesting. And on the British business piece, is a lot of your, I'd say, ingredients sourced from the UK, and so there was little disruption there, or how? So that's interesting. How did that work?
Yeah, so there can be disruptions, obviously, of ingredients from, I think a lot of people have, and especially when it comes to like manufacture. With our manufacturer in particular, they relied a lot on a lot of business come from food service. So it was an uncertain moment where we didn't know if our manufacturer was going to stop. And thankfully, we managed to find a way through that where we was able to continue, which I think a lot of people don't think about. It's not just you, it's like the whole supply chain of your business has to be functioning for you to function. But we tackled that pretty early, and we actually clubbed together with some other businesses to work out a timeline of how we could keep our manufacturer open. Now, we do use a lot of British ingredients, so like our eggs and our mayo are from St Hugh Farms in Cornwall, and we try and source as locally as possible. Now, we do have a range of avocado products, which sadly do not grow in the UK yet. But we were very lucky in terms of forward thinking. We always forward think because this is an ingredient that is a limited time of a year crop. So for us, I think the fact that we've been slightly forward thinking and the way the seasons worked, we had enough oil to cover what we needed. through that time. But it was the manufacturing part that was more of a challenge to overcome.
No, and I will just say, and not really a commercial for your business, but I do love your avocado oil. I think it's but before us talking, I'd never heard of it before, so love the range of products you have.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then the other thing you said as well was you set up your business with a distributed workforce, everyone working from home. One, well, a couple of things on that is um, love to know why. And then for other businesses, we're doing this for this series for other entrepreneurs, may have been skeptical of homework before this lockdown, and now see well a lot of the benefits in terms of efficiency, potentially be able to get employees from outside their local area, a commutable area. But can you just give us a bit of the, why you set up as a distributed workforce, and then any kind of pointers, particularly, one of the things I've been thinking is must be very hard to onboard new employees if they're remote. So just, any best practices and thoughts, around that distributed workforce.
Sure. And it's not the panacea. Like, now switching to a remote workforce is not going to solve other problems necessarily. Like, it's it's quite funky and trendy. It comes across that way, but there are challenges, like you mentioned. But for us, like in my personal life, I've done both. I've been in the city. I've worked 9 to 5. I've worked solely from home. I've been on the road. I've done a blend of the two. And what I found is that, one, for the person working at home, it can be much more productive, gives a lot more flexibility. I was more sort of loyal to those companies because it felt like they trusted me and I was going to do the job well. And not everyone works so well in a rigid 9 to 5 environment. And they may be brilliant at their job, but can't deal with the commute because of family reasons, etc. First of all, you've got to have trust. But for me, if you can't trust who works with you or for you or as part of the business, um, then the remote working isn't the issue, it's the trust that's the issue. And whether they're in an office or not, that trust needs to be worked on from the beginning. So, trusting your employees first and foremost, and trusting the team is important. Um, Two, in terms of like onboarding people, one of the challenge is the community aspect, because it is different. You don't have that kind of all come together on a Monday morning. How's your weekend been? It's harder to get those deeper levels of connection. So what we do is I do meet people that are joining us or joining the team, and we have like workshop days at the beginning. This is different to how, so we use a lot of freelance as well, which is again another thing. But for those that we call kind of like the core team, we do go and meet them. We do like, so throughout this kind of lockdown period, we was providing updates as well. So we're quite open and honest as what's going on, and we just continue to like include them.
So sharing information, and then for getting that community piece again as we begin to open up a little, do you have kind of, it sounds like you're still meeting in person is important to you and your team. Do you do any, is it like in the olden days and maybe the new days, did you do like a monthly kind of team meeting in person or anything like that, or?
So our team are spread actually across borders.
Oh,
So
wow.
we're not even just based in the UK. So it's it's really kind of interesting, because also you don't want to alienate those that are further away and can't constantly get flights, and that's not great for the environment either. So it is definitely a balance. And what we did was we did a meet up at Christmas and had a bit of a team gathering then. We was planning on doing a kind of summer barbecue this summer, but I'm not sure where we're going to get with that. But it's surprising, like what you can do via calls, and just by having your kind of mind open to to the community aspect. And the people that we have in the team, they are family people. We even have a husband and wife that work with us. And they don't necessarily want that either. Like, they don't want to go out for evening meals all the time. They don't want to feel like they have to do these things to get on in their jobs. And sometimes it can go the other way. And I've seen that in the city where you feel like, even if you've got another life. So for me, I mentioned to you earlier, I'm a horse rider. I've got a horse. We like being outside at the weekends. Like, the worst thing for me was having to go and sit in a pub when I don't really drink alcohol. And I love the community aspect, but if you're doing that every week or three nights a week, then where does your family fit? And where does your personal hobbies fit? So that's another aspect as well, taking out that need for being involved in stuff all the time.
Okay, no, that's really interesting, right? And it sounds like you're attracting different types of people, based on the flexibility and also just being able to kind of manage their out of life lives as they want. No, that's really interesting. And you also said as well that you have a number of freelancers. With the forecast rates for unemployment growing, temporary work and freelance work is a trend that many have spoken about. How do you manage your freelancers to do so in a way that you're respecting them as well as getting what you need out of your bit, for your business?
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of different reviews on freelancers and some like horror stories. And again, I really think it comes down to like trust and due diligence in the first place. And I do put a bit of it back on the person that's managing or encouraging the freelancer as well, because it's very easy to quickly blame someone for not doing a certain thing that you want. But reflect back on yourself. Have you done the due diligence? Have you set out clearly what you've wanted, what the expectations are? And 9 times out of 10, it's not. There's miscommunication, or you're not managing them in the right way. So for us, again, every freelancer is treated the same as if they were a team member. So weekly check-ins, finding out how they best work. Like, does my communication style work with them? If not, how do we do it different that we're both on the same page? I think with some freelancers, the expectation is that the client, i.e. me, is the be all and end all, and they should dance to my tune, and that's how it should be. I don't view freelance in that way. I view freelance as a person that has similar values of family, time, and they like the flexibility. And for us, it works really well. I treat them as a member of a team by still giving them updates about business, especially going through the lockdown like we've had, which probably a lot of their clients don't do. It might be right, we can't afford you, cutting you, and that's the only information they get. Whereas our communication style is, this is the challenge. This is what could happen. We're going through this with our manufacturer. We don't want you to worry at this moment. We have no intentions of stopping our work with you as a freelancer, but we want you to be aware of what's coming and what could be happening. We keep that dialogue, that communication open, and nothing happened. Like, the manufacturer stayed running, and it builds that trust that we've not said nothing, but we've kept them in the loop and what our intentions are. There's nothing worse than going through a very difficult situation and almost saying nothing is just as bad in my opinion.
Oh, okay, no, that's great, and it sounds like as well you and your team. I mean, well, frankly, all of us, right? We've been through a very uncertain time, and we're continuing to go through all of that uncertainty, and obviously there's a mental health impact, right? It's hard enough, dealing with stressful jobs and life when times are somewhat predictable. How have you been able to deal, yourself and your co-founder, with all of this uncertainty that you've been going through?
We've kind of got a bit of a saying that I'm uncomfortable in the comfortable now, which is a weird thing to think about. But when you're an entrepreneur or you're starting a business, there are curveballs that come at you left, right, and centre. And when you get a week or 2 weeks where everything has been plain sailing, it's almost like a ticking time bomb. You're like, something's going to happen anytime soon. What is it? And we're very logical thinkers and quite like to overcome challenges. It's part of the buzz of being an entrepreneur. So, in terms of business challenges, I think that if you're going into this and you're starting out your own business, you have to start getting comfortable with the uncomfortable and knowing that there will be a route through. It's just part of the journey. I've never come across anyone's journey that's been so straight and never to have deviations, challenges. But there are some fundamental principles that you can put in place to help this. And I think for me, definitely, like my co-founder Jeff, he's the broad thinker, I'm the doer, and I can get very dragged down into this is the other part of freelance and remote working. You can work too much. So for me, my challenge was, and even working for other companies, is not stopping, like not having a break, working all the way through. But that actually goes against all our personal values and health and optimal health and rest away from screens and getting out. So when starting Hunter and Gather and just really putting down on paper what our values are, it then helps with the other stresses. So we get up, we have a walk in the morning, it's a lovely day today, you're going to get out at lunchtime. Because ultimately, I've come to realise my to-do list is never going to end. And I'm very much a tick it all off, like to finish the day. But I've had to become more comfortable with understanding that challenges are coming, my to-do list isn't ending, and I need to take time for myself. So we take weekends. And I mentioned to you, I went for a lovely horse ride through the forest this weekend. Find what your hobby is outside of work. And this is a really important point if you work with your partner, like I do as well, in a remote situation, so it's just me and Jeff here. You need that separation. So running, walking, yoga, anything that gets you away from a screen, gives your mind time to think. That really helps with overcoming these challenges, and eventually over time it feels like you stretch in what you're capable of dealing with.
That's really interesting, and I think there is that, and particularly when you look over in the US at the West Coast, Silicon Valley entrepreneur, the kind of, I think they call it the hustle culture and hustle porn, right? I get up at 6, blah blah blah, and I've got 2 CEO jobs, and I think there is that alternative, which is being deliberative and actually making better decisions. And just as you say, you take time out during the day to get away from the screen. Have you found as well that you may go on that walk or that run or whatever it is, that activity you do to break up the day, that you've come back and then been able to, because your brain's had a break, you've come back and said, actually, that problem, I've now figured out a solution because I, just let it work over in the back of my brain while I was focused on something else. I'm wondering, have you felt benefits like that?
Oh, 100%. Like 100%. Jeff and I make more business decisions on our walk than we would do if we were sat at a table. You get inspiration, you can talk through things, you can throw ideas, and it just opens your mind. And then just a point around that hustle mentality. I think so many startups get pulled into that, and it's not a sprint in our opinion. You shouldn't wear yourself out at the beginning, because the problems and the challenges and the risk actually get bigger as you go along. And if you've worn yourself out at the beginning, then you're gonna end up resenting your business rather than enjoying your business. Last year, Jeff and I went on I think it was a 3.5 week tour of New Zealand, Australia, and ran the business remotely. And that's because we have forward thought, brought in systems, so utilise technology. And I think this time in lockdown has shown us what technology can do, so that you're not trading necessarily your time for money. It's getting out of that kind of thought space of that you have to work, like you do work hard, yes, but it's not grafting. It shouldn't physically hurt, and you can be smarter with your time, and avoid distractions and start saying no to stuff.
That's great. And just changing the subject a little bit, we're recording this on June the 15th. So non-essential stores are opening. Obviously, over the past 10 weeks, there's been a lot of concern for retail and hospitality. And with that, the impact on our high streets. You're an interesting business because you're direct to consumer, but also you work with retail. Do you see, kind of coming out of this, any bright spots for physical retail?
From what we've heard from the stores, they've been really great in doing their own online orders, doing baskets, finding innovative ways to keep their business running. I think where I'm in the food industry, it's slightly different to kind of different sectors. We don't do a lot free food service, and I know that's been really impacted. But I've seen some really innovative ways of businesses just changing what they do, like deliveries. There was someone doing like where they couldn't sell through their shop, but they could obviously posted items, that they were doing these bundles of like gluten-free afternoon teas, or so you could still feel like you're going out. I saw people running raffles for products. So if they've got £1,000 product, they'd sell 100 tickets at £10 a ticket. And it's that gamifying. And although they couldn't sell from their shop, they went onto Facebook or other social media platforms, and they've grown loads of followers from it because people are loving it, and it's going to help them thereafter. I think going forwards, obviously, as of today, stores are opening. I think it's going to be difficult for people to feel like, I'm talking end consumer, to go back into stores, because it feels like we've all been told stay at home, stay at home, stay at home. That I've spoken to some family members and they don't feel ready to go back out. And I think the physical retail stores are going to have a lot of challenges to overcome with pulling people back into stores, because what can they do? They can't do events because no one wants to gather at a store, whereas normally they'd do cool, fun face painting or whatever. You can't do that now. People don't want that. So it's thinking of different ways of how you can incorporate digital, I think, into your physical retail store.
And yeah, and what you're saying about retail, or frankly, hospitality, or any businesses where there's kind of physical interaction of people, events businesses, or you name it. I won't go through and kind of brainstorm them all with you. But in terms of government support, obviously, the government have stepped in to really help both companies and employees with the furlough scheme, companies with various loan schemes. As we get to the next stage of COVID, like you said, it's still going to be very difficult for a lot of business. Do you have any thoughts, ideas on where the government, what policies should be doing to help businesses still impacted by this?
So I've got it from two different sides, and I think there has been a lot of talk around businesses negatively impacted, and of course they should be helped. And I think the furlough scheme really goes towards that. For the workers themselves, I'm not sure whether this will be good or negative, because there have been businesses talking around, they've realised that they don't actually need as many staff as they had, and they've kind of restructured the P&L and using this as an option to do redundancies and things like that. it's also what happens after this furlough, because another friend of mine works in the travel industry and she's furloughed until the end of the year. So she feels like she's sitting on a bit of a time bomb, because it's like, what's the delayed impact of this? Like we mentioned, stores opening today, when at the time of this recording, how long is it going to take people to go back to stores, and will they ever? Will people travel in the same way, or will the staycation become what people want to do? I think the government needs to think about longer term as well, because we've got through this rough patch, but I think there's going to be a whole host of redundancies, restructuring the way people work, less people travelling. Do we need as many buses, trains, that kind of thing? But then, out of the getting away from kind of all negativity and stuff like that, there are businesses that are performing really well. So all of these online businesses, or businesses like Hunter and Gather, where we're focusing on optimal health, and we've doubled our business, there's no support for us for growth. So it's now become very difficult to get finance, to get loans in a normal way, only if you're kind of negatively impacted. But when you're growing at such a rapid rate, the cash flow is a challenge. And the businesses that are doing well might not be able to continue to do well, because the finance, the interest rates make it not feasible. So not only do you need to think about people that aren't doing so well, you actually need to support those that are, because that's the potential of where jobs will come from.
That's great, and thank you. And just the final question from me is, what's been your biggest learning from this, managing through this lockdown period, that you're going to apply kind of going forward for, if not the rest of your business career, at least for the foreseeable future?
I think there's been a few things, nothing major. Like I've mentioned before in this, I don't think there's like a silver bullet or a panacea that you do one thing and you're gonna fly. It's focus, saying no to things. You can, when you're starting a business, it feels like you're reaching out to everyone for opportunities and you're trying to push all these opportunities. The tide turns, and then so much stuff comes to you that you need to decide what is going to move the business forward, or what hits your goals. So learning what the right thing to do, or kind of thin slicing anything that comes past your desk and saying, yes, this is worth doing, or no, this isn't. So cutting out a lot of these meetings were in the diary, and a lot of shows that you feel like you have to go to. We've grown faster in the last 3 months of saying no to everything than we have done when we was trying to please everyone and do everything. So focus on what's important, only do things that deliver that goal. Scrutinise your costs and P&L. We are lean in terms of not having an office, and that was set up before, and that's continued to be a positive. And we have chucked a few sayings out there, but we have a learning of hard choices, easy life. Whereas if you make easy choices, your life can be difficult. And I think that's kind of key. You need to know your numbers, you need to make those choices, and you need to make those difficult choices, and then you'll find the ease comes through. So if you've been going through this kind of situation and you maybe haven't made a person redundant that you've realized you don't necessarily need, then you're going to be sitting with that for a long time. And that person's probably also worrying when they could move on and get a new role then. Like, the hardest decisions are the ones you should make as early as possible.
Great, and not to be too too corny, Amy, but thank you very much for making us a priority today. So on behalf of everyone watching this and E2E, thank you so much for your time. And also just for anyone interested in your business and learning more about, I'm obsessed with avocado oil, but I know avocado oil, but I know you have so much more. How can folks learn more about your company?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. For me, one of the things I'm working on at the moment is speaking on podcasts and kind of getting the brand out there in more business to business, because there's a lot of sport that can be had. So you was definitely on the radar for something that was was worth saying yes to. So thank you for having me. And if anyone is interested to reach out to me or learn more about Hunter and Gather, you can find all of our products online at hunterandgatherfoods.com. And there is a contact us page where the emails will come through to me. So again, my name is Amy. So any questions, just reach out. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook, and it's Hunter and Gather UK. I think that's right.